We're seeing more and more AI agents popping up in businesses, right? Tackling some seriously complex stuff.
Absolutely. They're getting really sophisticated.
But have you ever stopped to think about how well these digital brains actually work together?
That's the thing.
Because the current chatter is they mostly don't. Not easily, anyway.
That's the crucial point, yeah. We've got all these increasingly smart individual agents, but the real power surge happens when they connect.
When they can collaborate effectively.
And that's the hurdle we're facing right now. Big time.
Okay, let's unpack this because something really interesting landed last year at Google Cloud Next. The agent-to-agent protocol, or A2A.
A2A, great.
This isn't about some singular AI overlords. It's framed as the key to unlocking the real potential of enterprise AI.
By enabling these individual agents to finally act as a team, a cohesive team.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, our mission is pretty straightforward. We're going to get to grips with what A2A is, why it's creating such a buzz, and what it could actually mean for the future of AI in, our businesses.
Right. We've got a good set of information to explore here. Everything from the core problems A2A aims to solve to its underlying technical structure and, some fascinating potential applications.
It sounds like a lot.
It is, but we'll break it down, make it clear, digestible insights for you.
Great. So let's get right to the core of the issue then. Why do we even need something like A2A? It sounds like the fundamental problem is that these agents, they just operate in isolation.
Precisely. We've seen this rapid evolution moving way beyond basic chatbots.
Right. They do more now.
They can reason, plan, execute intricate workflows. And the prediction, a strong one from Google, is that every enterprise will soon rely on multi-agent systems.
Wow. Every enterprise. That's a huge prediction.
It is. Think about that as a fundamental shift in how enterprise software operates.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? You've got all these specialized digital tools, but they need to be able to connect and interact. So what's the bottleneck? Why aren't they just communicating seamlessly already?
Well, the central issue is fragmentation. That's the word you hear a lot.
Fragmentation.
Agents are being developed on all sorts of different platforms by different companies, often tailored for very specific tasks.
So they're not built with communication in mind from the start.
Not necessarily communication between different systems, no. This creates what people often call walled gardens.
Walled gardens, okay.
They might excel at their individual functions, inside their wall, but they lack a standard way to communicate and collaborate with agents outside their specific environment.
So it's like having different departments in a company, maybe, each speaking its own jargon, using incompatible tech.
That's a great analogy. And it sounds like, well, not much efficient teamwork happens that way.
Exactly. And the impact is significant. We've seen data suggesting that a large percentage, something like 73% of automation projects hit hurdles.
73%?
Yeah, specifically because of these integration challenges between different AI tools.
So this inability for agents to talk effectively really limits the potential for, those seamless end-to-end workflows everyone wants.
Okay, so enter A2A, Google's potential answer. What's the proposition here? How is this protocol supposed to fix this fragmentation mess?
A2A is presented as an open, standardized communication framework. The key word there is definitely standardized.
A common language.
Right. The aim is to allow AI agents, doesn't matter where they came from or how they were built, to seamlessly discover each other, communicate effectively, collaborate on tasks, securely exchange info, and coordinate actions across different enterprise platforms, different applications.
So it's about setting up rules of the road, a common language and agreed upon rules for these AIs to interact.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like finally having universal adapters for all your electronics.
Good one.
Yeah.
And this isn't just a nice to have, is it? You mentioned the rise of specialized agents.
Exactly. Given how many specialized agents are popping up, standardization is becoming, well, a strategic necessity.
Yeah.
Without it, we risk ending up with a totally fractured AI landscape.
A balkanized landscape, I think I read somewhere.
Yeah, where the true power of multi-agent systems just gets stuck, severely restricted.
And it's not just Google pushing this, right? I remember seeing a pretty impressive list of companies involved.
Absolutely. Google unveiled A2A with support from over 50 tech partners. Big names.
Like who?
Like Atlassian, Box, Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, Workday.
Wow, okay. Heavy hitters.
That level of industry support really underscores, that this problem is widely recognized. There's a shared desire for a solution.
Okay, so we get the problem, we get the goal. Let's dig into the specifics now. What are the fundamental ideas, the design principles guiding A2A? What makes it tick?
So Google outlined 5 key design principles. First one, embrace agentic capabilities.
Agentic capabilities.
Meaning A2A is designed for autonomous agents. Agents that can use their own abilities, like natural language understanding, to communicate, even if they don't initially share memory or context or the same tools.
So it acknowledges they're intelligent entities.
Right. Capable of reasoning, problem-solving together, even without perfect alignment right at the start. It facilitates true multi-agent scenarios.
So it's not just about rigidly exchanging structured data. It allows for more sort of natural interaction between AIs.
Exactly. Which sounds pretty critical for handling complex collaborations.
Definitely. What's principle number 2?
Second, build on existing standards. This is important for adoption.
Makes sense.
A2A uses well-established web tech, things like HTTP for communication, server-send events, or SSE for streaming updates.
SSE? That's like live updates instead of constantly asking, are we there yet?
Perfect analogy. And JSON RPC for structuring the messages, so developers aren't forced to learn entirely new, bespoke protocols.
That's smart. Lowering the barrier to entry, always a good strategy. What's next?
Third principle, secure by default. Security is paramount in enterprise, right?
Absolutely non-negotiable.
So A2A incorporates support for robust authentication and authorization right from the start. They're aiming for parity with established standards like OpenAPI.
Okay. Essential for trust and adoption. What about tasks that take a while? Not everything's instant.
Good point. That leads to principle 4. Support for long-running tasks.
Okay.
Many real-world business processes can span hours, even days. Maybe you need human input sometimes.
Right. Like that hiring example you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. A2A is specifically designed to handle these longer processes. It provides ways to get real-time feedback, status updates, notifications throughout the whole task lifecycle.
So you're not just left hanging wondering what's happening.
Right. Much more practical than just fire and forget.
Makes sense. And the final principle.
5th is modality agnostic.
Modality agnostic, meaning it handles different types of data.
Yes. Agent interactions aren't just text. A2A is designed to support exchanging various data types, audio, video streams, potentially other things too.
For richer communication.
Exactly. More versatile collaboration between agents.
So it's looking beyond just text chats. It could open doors for AIs collaborating with images, sound. That's pretty forward thinking.
It is.
Okay, let's dive a bit deeper then, into the architecture. What are the key bits and pieces that make A2A actually work under the hood?
Right. So at a high level, it's a client-server model. You've got an A2A client initiating requests.
Okay.
And an A2A server, which is also called the remote agent, receiving requests and managing the work.
Standard stuff. But you mentioned something about how they find each other.
Yes. The real linchpin for discovery and understanding is the agent card.
The agent card. Sounds like a digital business card for an AI.
That's a perfect way to think about it. It's a standardized JSON metadata file.
JSON, okay.
Usually hosted at a specific well-known web address on the server, like .wellknownagent.json.
Like a standard place to look for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it like a standardized menu for what the AI can do and how to interact with it.
Okay.
This card acts as its public profile. It details the agent's capabilities, its specific skills, the web address for its A2A endpoint,
where to send requests,
and crucially, the authentication methods it requires.
So a client agent can basically look up another agent's menu or resume to see if it's the right fit for a job.
Precisely. That sounds absolutely critical for that initial discovery step.
It's the cornerstone, really. How agents find compatible partners in the A2A world.
Makes sense. What else is core to the architecture?
Next up, we have the task. This is the fundamental unit of work being exchanged, the job itself.
Right. When a client needs something done, it initiates a task. That task gets a unique ID.
For tracking.
And it goes through a defined life cycle. Submitted, working, needs input, completed, failed, canceled. Those sorts of states.
So the task is the container for the whole collaboration. What about the actual conversation during the task?
That happens through messages. A message is basically a single turn in the conversation within a task.
Like one line of dialogue.
Sort of. You have the client playing the user role and the server agent playing the agent role. And these messages contain one or more parts.
Parts, what are those exactly?
Parts are the basic building blocks of the content inside a message or inside an artifact.
Okay, artifacts. Those are the results.
Exactly. Artifacts are the outputs generated by the remote agent when a task finishes successfully, like the final report or the process data.
Got it. So messages for the chat, artifacts for the results,
Yeah.
and both are made of parts.
Correct. And the part types give you flexibility. There's text part for plain text,
Obvious enough.
file part for binary data, like an image or a document. This could be embedded right in the message or just be a link, a URI, point to the file.
Okay.
And data part for structured JSON data. Think configuration settings, form data, that kind of thing.
So it's a modular way to bundle different kinds of info in the communication flow. Neat.
It is. And remember, as we touched on, all this communication uses standard web tech.
Right, HTTP.
HTTPS for security, JSON RPC for structuring the requests and responses, and SSE for those real-time updates on longer tasks.
It really sounds like a practical approach, using familiar tools instead of inventing everything from scratch.
Definitely. Makes it easier for developers to jump in.
You mentioned potential trade-offs earlier, though, with using standard tech.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that custom-built protocols could, in theory, squeeze out better performance for very specific high-frequency scenarios.
Like super fast trading bots or something.
Maybe, yeah, ultra-low latency stuff. But the priority with A2A seems to be getting broad interoperability first, getting everyone talking the same language.
Which makes sense. And that agent card really does seem central to enabling this flexible collaboration.
It really is. It's not just about finding an agent. It enables this dynamic runtime binding.
Dynamic runtime binding.
Meaning a client agent can discover partners based on the task at hand, right when it needs it, by checking those advertised capabilities.
Without needing to be pre-programmed with knowledge of every single other agent.
Exactly. No hard coding. It fosters a much more flexible, scalable ecosystem. New agents can join, existing ones can update their skills without breaking everything.
Okay, so we've got the components. How does this all play out in a real collaboration? Can you walk us through the flow?
Sure. It kicks off with capability discovery. And like we said, the agent card is key here.
The agent's menu or profile.
Right. A client agent needs something done. It looks for A2A servers by checking their agent cards. What can you do? What skills do you have?
Finding the right specialist.
Precisely. This standardized mechanism is crucial because before A2A, there just wasn't a common way for agents to understand each other's capabilities reliably.
So it's like a universal directory service for AI skills. Once the client finds a potential partner, what's next?
Then comes the task lifecycle. Starts with initiation.
Kicking off the job.
The client sends an HTTP POS key request to the server's A2A endpoint, usually task send or task send subscribe. This includes the initial message describing the task.
Here's what I need you to do.
Basically, the server immediately responds with a unique task ID.
And that ID is the handle for this whole interaction.
Exactly. The task then moves through different states, like submitted, got it, haven't started yet, working, actively processing,
Yep.
input required, hey, client, I need more info, completed success, failed, oops, something went wrong, or canceled.
Standard states for managing a process.
Right. And eventually it reaches completion, one of those terminal states. If it's successful, the server typically provides the results as an artifact.
The deliverable.
Yeah.
And the back and forth during this life cycle uses those messages and artifacts.
Yep. Message and artifact exchange is the core of the communication. Messages handle the initial request, any clarifications needed.
Questions from the server.
Right. Or input provided by the client, status updates from the server. Dialogue, essentially.
And artifacts are the final product.
The tangible outcomes. Reports, processed files, analyzed data, whatever the task was about. And remember, both are built from those parts, text, file, data.
Providing that structure and versatility. Okay. Now, what about those longer tasks we keep mentioning? How does A2A stop the client just sitting there waiting?
Good question. A2A offers a few ways to handle long-running and asynchronous tasks.
Okay.
The simplest, but maybe least efficient, is polling. The client just keeps asking the server, are you done yet? How's it going?
Sounds annoying. And potentially wasteful.
It can be.
Yeah.
So A2A supports better ways. One key one is streaming using server-sent events, SSE.
SSE again.
If the client initiates the task using the task send subscribe endpoint, and the server supports it, the server can push real-time updates to the client.
Pushed updates.
Over a persistent HTTP connection. These updates come as specific events. Task status update event when the state changes.
Like moving from working to input required.
Exactly. Or task artifact update event, which can deliver intermediate results or the final artifact as soon as it's ready.
So you get live progress reports instead of constantly bugging the server. Much better.
You mentioned another method, too.
Yes, push notifications. This is even more decoupled.
How does that work?
If the server supports it, the client can provide a webhook URL when it sets up the task, like a callback address.
Okay. Then the server can proactively send updates, status changes, new artifacts directly to that URL whenever something happens.
So the client doesn't even need to keep a connection open. It just gets notified.
Exactly. It just listens at its designated URL.
That's really flexible. It sounds like developers get a choice depending on the task the agent's involved.
Right. Simple request response for quick things or streaming or push notifications for more complex asynchronous workflows. Lots of options.
Now, security, obviously critical when systems start talking to each other, especially across companies, maybe. How's A2A handle that?
Security is baked in as a core principle. The security framework covers several areas.
Okay, like what?
Authentication first. The agent card specifies how the server expects clients to prove who they are. API keys, OAuth 2.0 standard methods.
So the client has to follow those rules.
It must comply to get access. The goal is security on par with things like the Open API spec.
Makes sense. What about what they're allowed to do once they're authenticated?
That's authorization. Right now, it's mostly implicit. The server agent figures out what an authenticated client is allowed to ask for based on its identity or permissions.
Okay.
But there are future plans to potentially make this more explicit, maybe defining roles or permissions within the agent card itself.
So the card might say, this user can request reports, but can't delete data.
Something like that, potentially down the road.
Yeah.
And of course, all communication must use HTTPS for transport security, encryption in transit.
Standard practice. Good.
Plus, there's the concept of opaque agents.
Opaque, meaning you can't see inside.
Essentially, yes. Agents can collaborate via A2A without revealing their internal logic, their secret sauce algorithms, or underlying sensitive data.
That's important.
Collaboration happens purely through the defined A2A interface, tasks, messages, artifacts. It preserves confidentiality and IP.
That seems vital for business adoption. You also mentioned something about UX negotiation, user experience.
Yeah, UX negotiation. Sometimes an agent might need the user interacting via the client agent to see something specific. Like displaying a particular web form, maybe embedding an iframe from another service, or showing a video stream.
So the back-end agent needs to tell the front-end agent how to present something to the human user.
Exactly. The protocol allows agents to communicate these UI requirements. And the future vision is even more dynamic, maybe adding an audio or video stream mid-task.
Interesting. So A2A seems to cover a lot, from basic chat to complex, long-running tasks involving security and even UI elements.
It's aiming for broad applicability, yes.
Yeah.
And that mix of synchronous and asynchronous communication methods is key to that versatility.
Right. Gives developers flexibility, though maybe adds complexity, too.
Definitely. Implementing and managing those async patterns well requires careful thought. It's not trivial.
Okay, so with all this framework in place, the cards, tasks, messages, security, what are the big picture benefits, the strategic advantages? Why should organizations really care about A2A?
Well, the number one benefit, the headline act, is breaking down silos.
Getting rid of those walled gardens?
Exactly. That fragmentation we talked about. A2A aims to solve it. By creating this common communication standard, it enables interoperability.
Across different platforms.
Yes, across different AI development frameworks. Google's own ADK, LangGraph, Crew.ai, and importantly, across agents from different vendors. Salesforce, SAP, Box.
So my Salesforce agent could potentially talk directly to my SAP agent to coordinate something.
That's the goal. This ability for previously isolated systems to communicate and collaborate. It's a potential game changer.
It really does sound like removing language barriers between AI systems. What else does that unlock?
It fosters a much more open and innovative agent ecosystem.
How so?
By making integration easier, A2A encourages developers to mix and match. Use the best agent for each specific job, regardless of who built it.
Best-of-breed solutions.
Precisely. This flexibility can lead to more tailored, more powerful solutions, and you can imagine it paving the way for agent marketplaces.
Like an app store, but for specialized AI agents.
Kinda, yeah. Where organizations could easily find and plug in agents with specific skills. Accelerates innovation.
Okay, that makes sense. And for businesses themselves, what's the bottom line impact?
It's about driving significant gains in efficiency and automation, especially for complex workflows.
The multi-step processes.
Right. Think about intricate things that span multiple systems, need different kinds of expertise, like hiring someone start to finish.
Or resolving a tricky customer support issue.
Exactly. Or even that self-healing software example, proactively managing performance. A2A lets you automate these multi-step processes by orchestrating specialized agents.
So less manual effort, faster turnaround times.
Greater autonomy for the systems themselves. It's moving beyond automating single tasks to automating entire interconnected business processes.
That's a big leap.
It is. And remember, A2A is designed for scalability and supports diverse modalities, text, audio, video, opening up more possibilities.
Right, plus the enterprise focus.
Yes, the focus on security, using existing standards, handling long tasks, and having that strong partner backing all point towards enterprise readiness.
It sounds architected with real business needs in mind. You mentioned specialization again earlier. How does A2A help there?
Yeah, interoperability really catalyzes specialization. If agents can easily talk, there's less need for giant, monolithic, do-everything agents.
Which are probably hard to build and maintain anyway.
Right. Instead, you can have highly focused agents, experts in one thing. A billing agent, a scheduling agent, a code debugging agent.
Like microservices, but for AI agents.
That's a great comparison. These specialized agents can then be dynamically combined using A2A to tackle complex end-to-end tasks. You compose solutions from experts.
So organizations leverage the best specialists for each part of a bigger job. That feels strategically powerful. Okay, let's make this even more concrete. What are some real-world examples? How could A2A actually be used?
Okay, several compelling use cases pop up. Take hiring and candidate sourcing.
Right, the complex workflow example.
Imagine a hiring manager talking to their main AI assistant. That assistant uses A2A.
To do what?
To find and task a specialized candidate sourcing agent.
Yeah.
Sends the job rec securely. Gets back a curated list of candidates.
Okay.
Then maybe it tasks a scheduling agent to set up interviews. Later, a background check agent, all coordinated via A2A.
Wow, an interconnected chain of specialists. That could seriously streamline HR. What's another big area?
Customer service and support automation. Huge potential there.
Beyond the basic chatbot.
Way beyond. Instead of one bot trying to do everything, A2A orchestrates a team behind the scenes.
How would that look to the customer?
Seamlessly, hopefully.
Yeah.
The customer talks to the primary support agent. But if it's a billing question, that agent uses A2A to loop in the dedicated billing system agent, passing the context. Refund request. Talks to the refund agent. Complex tech issue. Consults the knowledge base agent.
So the complexity is hidden. The customer gets a consistent, effective interaction powered by multiple specialists.
Exactly. Smoother, more efficient support. That's the goal.
Makes sense. I remember you mentioned self-healing software too, with Pendo.
Yes, that's a fascinating one. Software experience management, SXM, and self-healing apps.
How does A2A fit in?
An agent monitoring software usage detects friction or a bug. It uses A2A to instantly notify and pass details to, say, a code-fixing agent.
Like the Cursor AI agent example.
Right. That agent analyzes the issue, maybe even automatically generates and applies a fix. Proactive problem resolution.
That's pretty advanced stuff. What other kinds of areas could benefit? Seems like the possibilities are wide.
They really are. Think about research and content generation. You could chain agents. One for data gathering, one for summarizing, one for formatting, one for validation.
A production line for content?
Kind of. Beyond that, transportation coordinating autonomous vehicles, cloud computing optimizing resources, scientific research complex data analysis pipelines.
Finance, healthcare?
Finance fraud detection, risk assessment, healthcare streamlining, admin workflows, always respecting privacy, of course, supply chain optimization, even just better personal assistance.
Assistants that can orchestrate many different back-end services.
Exactly. The key takeaway is A2A enables sophisticated orchestration beyond just giving tools to one AI. It's about intelligent collaboration between specialists for higher-level business processes.
It really does paint a picture of A2A as this crucial connective tissue for a much smarter, more automated enterprise future.
Okay, let's position this. We've heard about other protocols like Anthropic's Model Context Protocol, MCP. How does A2A compare? Where does it fit?
That's a really important comparison. It's crucial to see they have distinct roles, at least as designed.
Okay, A2A versus MCP, what's the difference?
A2A, as we've hammered home, is about agent-to-agent communication and collaboration, peer-to-peer interaction. even unstructured chat, complex coordination.
Agents talking to agents.
Right. MCP, on the other hand, is mainly about an agent or LLM accessing external tools and data sources.
Agent talking to a tool, like an API.
Exactly. MCP defines a structured way for an agent to call a tool and get context back. So the difference is who is talking to whom and why. So one is conversation, the other is tool use.
That's a good way to put it. Think of MCP providing the hands and tools for an AI,
Okay.
while A2A is the framework allowing multiple AI minds to coordinate using those hands and tools together on a bigger project.
So they sound complementary, not necessarily competing.
Exactly. Google positions them as synergistic and complementary. The idea is complex applications will probably need both.
Both MCP for tool access.
And A2A for coordinating the agents that use those tools.
Oh,
Remember the car repair analogy?
vaguely.
MCP lets the mechanic agent check the parts database, the tool. A2A handles the chat between the customer agent and mechanic agent, or between the mechanic and a specialist diagnostic agent.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. Google even suggested A2A agents could be modeled as MCP resources?
Yeah, showing how intertwined they could be. MCP is maybe a lower layer for resource access, A2A a higher layer for collaboration strategy.
But is everyone in the industry seeing it purely as synergy? Any alternative views?
Well, some observers do speculate about potential overlap, or maybe indirect competition down the line.
Why?
Just the reality of having two protocols might add complexity. And they had slightly different initial launch partner groups. Anthropic OpenAI leaning early into MCP.
Right. Well, A2A had that broader enterprise list.
So maybe different ecosystem alignments initially. Google backing A2A strongly while also supporting MCP is interesting. Covering their bases, offering flexibility.
Time will tell how they truly coexist. You mentioned IBM's ACP briefly, too.
Yeah, Agent Communication Protocol. Seems initially more focused on their own BAI platform's internal environment, less of a cross-vendor push like A2A.
So A2A seems unique in its specific focus on cross-framework, cross-vendor agent collaboration.
Okay, given A2A is a Google initiative, how tightly woven is it into their own AI ecosystem, Vertex AI and all that?
It's strategically very deeply integrated within the Vertex AI platform.
Their big ML platform.
Right. Vertex covers the whole ML lifecycle. The integration means agents built or managed in Vertex AI can easily connect out to external A2A agents, enabling hybrid solution.
Exactly. Leveraging internal Google Cloud capabilities alongside external specialists via A2A.
What about their specific tools for building agents, like the ADK?
The Agent Development Kit, ADK. Google's Python framework for building agents has first-class built-in A2A support.
So if you build with ADK, you're A2A ready.
Pretty much. ADK agents can natively use agent cards, discover, and interact with other A2A agents, even those built with LangGraph or Crew.ai. Google provides examples for that.
And ADK supports MCP too, you said?
It does, making it a versatile toolkit for developers wanting to use either or both protocols.
Okay. And where do these agents run once they're built?
That's where Agent Engine comes in. It's the managed runtime environment in Vertex AI.
For deploying and scaling them.
Exactly. Especially for ADK build agents. And agents deployed via Agent Engine are fully A2A compatible, ready to join that interoperable landscape.
How does this surface to actual users? I think I heard the term agent space.
Yeah, agent space. That's envisioned as the user-facing interface in Google Cloud.
For end users to interact with AI apps and agents.
Right. More intuitive access. And it's designed with A2A support, so agents used via agent space can collaborate with other A2A agents behind the scenes.
And the agent marketplace ties in too.
Likely, yes. Google's fostering an AI agent marketplace in the Google Cloud Marketplace. It's a safe bet agents there will leverage A2A for discovery and interaction.
It really does sound like A2A is positioned as the strategic glue for Google's whole agent ecosystem.
That's a great way to put it. Strategic glue.
Connecting their internal pieces, but also bridging out to the wider world of agents, offering flexibility, avoiding lock-in, maybe.
That seems to be the aim, yes.
Yeah.
Providing that open pathway is key to its pitch.
So where does A2A actually stand right now, late 2025? Is this ready for prime time or still early days?
Definitely still in the early stages. Google released it as an open protocol spec draft. It's on GitHub, Apache 2.0 license.
Open source.
Yes. With documentation, code samples in Python and JavaScript, a demo showing cross-framework interaction, and those sample integrations for ADK, Crew AI, LangGraph, GameKit. So the pieces are out there.
But it's a draft specification, not final.
Exactly. Google calls it a work in progress. The spec, the implementations, they're subject to change based on feedback and development.
So no stable V1.0 yet.
Not yet. They plan one, but only once it matures to production quality. The current release is explicitly experimental for evaluation feedback.
Got it. So, still evolving. Given that, what are the big hurdles, the challenges for A2A getting widely adopted and developed it further?
Well, broad adoption beyond Google and the initial partners is number one. That's crucial for any standard.
Getting critical mass.
Right. And integration into the huge, messy, fast-moving world of AI tools and platforms. That's a big technical and strategic challenge.
How it plays with MCP, how framework developers embrace it.
All major factors. Plus, there are technical limitations or areas needing work in the current state.
Like what?
The standardization itself is still evolving pre-V1.0. Security complexity, especially secure communication across organizations, is hard. Fine-grained authorization, establishing trust.
Tricky problem.
Definitely. Also, monitoring and debugging these asynchronous multi-agent workflows isn't easy. Need better observability tools.
And the user experience.
Right now, it feels very developer-first. Need more intuitive ways for non-developers to manage these collaborations. Plus, just the robustness of individual agents matters. And managing state across distributed agents is inherently complex.
So quite a few technical and ecosystem challenges still on the table. Needs a strong community to form around it.
Absolutely. That engagement is key.
What about specific future plans, things Google has hinted at for A2A?
They've mentioned enhancing authentication authorization, maybe embedding credentials in agent cards somehow.
Streamlining secure connections.
Possibly. Also making that UX negotiation more dynamic, adding audio-video mid-task. And just general performance improvements, especially for streaming and push notifications on those long tasks. Continuous refinement.
Sounds like they're listening and iterating. What's the advice from analysts, then, for companies looking at A2A now?
The general vibe seems to be monitor it closely. Watch the adoption rate.
Pay attention.
Experiment with the open source stuff. Evaluate your specific use cases, especially if cross-framework or cross-vendor collaboration would be a big win.
But with caution.
Yes. Given the pre-V1.0 status, proceed carefully. Prioritize security, monitoring, error handling in any pilots. And engage with the community. Stay informed. Give feedback.
Makes sense. One last point that stood out, governance. You mentioned it's Google-led right now. Is that a concern for an open standard?
It's a very valid point to consider, yeah. While it's promoted as open, the development is currently driven mainly by Google and its initial partners.
Which isn't unusual for early stages, but...
But for long-term trust and broad adoption, open standards often benefit hugely from a more formalized, vendor-neutral governance structure.
To ensure it evolves for the whole community, not just one company's interests.
Exactly. The lack of a clear, vendor-neutral governance model for A2A's future could make some potential adopters hesitate. They might see it as Google open rather than truly community-driven.
So establishing that transparent, inclusive governance might be pretty important for its future success as a real industry standard.
I think it likely will be crucial for building that long-term trust and widespread uptake.
Okay, so wrapping up. A2A definitely looks like a really interesting, potentially very significant move. A step towards that future where AI agents can truly collaborate, securely, seamlessly.
It's clearly targeting a critical bottleneck in the current AI landscape, and it has some impressive initial backing.
But crucially, we need to remember it's still early days, still evolving.
Right. There are real challenges, technical maturation, broader adoption, governance that need to be tackled.
It holds immense potential, no doubt, for enterprise automation, for innovation, but realistic expectations are key right now.
Absolutely. It's one to watch closely and engage with as it develops.
So as we finish this deep dive on Google's agent-to-agent protocol, maybe it leaves us with a provocative thought to ponder, if we do reach that point, where AI agents can genuinely, securely collaborate across company lines, across different technologies. What completely new capabilities, what transformative business models might emerge that we can't even really picture yet?
That's a really exciting question, isn't it? The unforeseen consequences of true digital collaboration at scale.
Definitely something to keep an eye on as this tech continues its journey.